Further, there's the use of the word modernising management, and I just think that there is room for further emphasis on high quality communication and strategies to improve communication both internally and in relation to external partners, stakeholders, etc. With regard to strengthening inspection and monitoring of compliance, I would build on some of the comments that have just been made, and I believe the whole area of analytics and evaluation can be and should be given greater focus. And I suggest that this should occur at multiple levels so that lower level staff develop analytical capacity and evaluative capacity, just like those who deal with regions or the country as a whole. So I think this needs to be a multi-level activity. And likewise, I think we can, as well as looking back, we can look forward too. And I think this work should be linked to work on enhancing cybersecurity. And finally, a comment about research and international cooperation. I'd like to endorse that. And of course, any international cooperation that involves New Zealand, we are doubly appreciative of that, just like we admire the cooperation of the World Bank and the Danes and with others. But I would emphasize the importance of linking the research and international cooperation activity to the development of institutional capacity. Sometimes these activities can be less connected, less grounded, and produce less return than one would expect. So I think particular care should be made to link the activities to the ongoing growth in institutional capacity. So again, congratulations on a well-developed strategy with important key solutions, but recognizing that there is important work yet to be done in progressing them. Thank you.
Xin trân trọng cảm ơn giáo sư. Rất nhiều đồng nghiệp của chúng tôi ngồi đây cũng đã rất mong là sẽ được tiếp tục gặp lại giáo sư tại Waikato. Vâng, sau đây xin mời đại diện của from Sokso, Malaysia.
Thank you for the question, Deputy Director General. I'll be answering both questions at the same time. I mean, if you look into social security investment, originally social security investment are aimed at safeguarding the value of financial assets and ensuring the financial viability and long-term sustainability of pension schemes, investing social security reserve funds, and it has surged to become a core business process in social security administration. At the onset, investment decisions were informed to be essentially by the investor's quest for capital and guided by the fundamental principles of safety, liquidity, and yields, with a predominant focus on financial instruments and financial markets. Additionally, investment principles have evolved from guiding principles of safety, liquidity, and yields to include socioeconomic and sometimes political dimensions of social protection, with an increasing inclination towards economically targeted investment and social responsible investment, SRIs, or of social security reserve funds. So historically, investing social security surpluses have been mainly through financial markets, financial markets instruments as a mean to transfer capital from social security administrations to entrepreneurs. Typically, these surpluses are invested with justified expectations of positive returns, profitability, taking into account safety and liquidity requirements of the social security schemes. While these principles remain relevant, the rise in surpluses to constitute reserve funds and the deferral suppression of the need to liquidate investments to cover recurrent expenditure has brought new dynamics in investing social security funds. In practice, the investment paradigm has tilted from investing for profits to investing for value creation without downplaying the safety and liquidity requirements. For example, SOCSO has also moved into assets like properties, and we own a couple of properties which are actually giving us quite positive returns. These new forms of investing in social security funds includes perhaps others like scheme developments, advancement, public infrastructure, or investment in self-managed social and health care infrastructure. For SOCSO, we have now our own rehabilitation center, and we are building our new rehabilitation and also a trauma center to focus on giving treatment for injured persons or workers suffering from accidents or diseases. So despite this shift in the investing for profits to investing for value creation, the overriding objective of financial viability, solvency, and long-term sustainability of the social security schemes remain primordial in investment decisions. However, investment beliefs and approaches have evolved across countries. I mean, we can see research by the International Social Security Association that among social security institutions, thereby they are alike in different perspectives to the fundamental investments principles, for example, with safety, liquidity, and yields. For SOCSO, our fund has been invested in equity, money market, government securities, corporate bonds, sukuk loans, Islamic financings, property and private equity, and some of our funds are outsourced to external fund managers for especially equities and bonds. In terms of equity investments, we do domestic and foreign, but it shall not exceed 30% of the whole investment fund. Equity instruments allowed for this such as ordinary shares, warrants, rights, preference shares, REITs, I mean real estate investment trust, convertible loan stock, exchange traded funds, as well as American or global depository receipts. As for fixed income investment, it consists mainly of government securities, Islamic financings, as well as corporate bonds. Investment in government securities should be at least 30% of our investment fund, and these instruments allowed includes the government guarantee and so on. Meanwhile, in this corporate bonds or Islamic financings, it shall not exceed 25% of our investment fund. So all these are actually regulated by what we call our investment guideline, which is done in consultation with the Ministry of Finance, where the Ministry of Finance regulates how statutory body like SOCSO would manage this fund. Apart from that, we've also have money market investment in local market as well as foreign currency, and it should be at least of 5% of the fund. Yeah, SOCSO can invest in derivative, but it's also only for hedging risk, for hedging the risk, and also risk management, which includes settlement, ramping up portfolios, and other operations for the purpose of not for speculation. In addition, investment for money market is only allowed with the financial institutions approved by the Ministry of Finance, Malaysia. In terms of property investment, it shall not exceed 8% of the fund. And for property investments that are allowed includes direct property investment, property investment via fund managers or property developers through SOCSO's existing development land and so on. These could be our branches and buildings that Perkeso owns. In terms of private equity investment, it shall not exceed 3% of SOCSO's investment fund, and private equity investment are allowed, including property investment via these fund managers or co-investment. So if you understand the whole framework, it's not a one size fits all. I mean, VSS should not be using purely Perkeso's strategic asset allocation, but you may need to study your cash flow in terms of designing your horizontal and vertical fluidity of your cash. And I mean, I would also like to stand corrected that Perkeso does not fully put its funds in long-term investment, but the allocation would be depending on what the amount is required by Perkeso, because it's based on the trends of payouts, and as well as the predict the how we would predict the contingencies on compensation that will be paying out by SOCSO. I hope that answers most of the questions. But if you would like to know more, we could arrange possible discussions in the future with the VSS.
Cảm ơn SOCSO đã chia sẻ thông tin để liên quan đến danh mục cũng như là các cái giới hạn đầu tư cũng như các cái quy định đầu tư. Hiện nay thì Bảo hiểm xã hội Việt Nam thì do là quản lý cả quỹ ngắn hạn và quỹ dài hạn. Vì vậy là hiện nay là và cũng như là quỹ của Bảo hiểm xã hội Việt Nam hiện nay mới thành lập được hơn 25 năm, nên là cái hiện nay cân đối dòng tiền của Bảo hiểm Việt Nam thì cũng không, hiện nay dòng tiền vào thì vẫn nhiều hơn dòng tiền ra, nên cái tính thanh khoản là cũng không phải là vấn đề Bảo hiểm xã hội Việt Nam quá quan tâm. Nhưng mà những cái vấn đề mà SOCSO có chia sẻ thì thực sự là những vấn đề mà chúng tôi sẽ phải gặp phải trong cái tương lai, đặc biệt là khi đó thì Bảo hiểm xã hội Việt Nam sẽ phải quản lý đầu tư cả về vấn đề về quản trị dòng tiền, cả về vấn đề về danh mục, cả vấn đề về thời hạn và cả vấn đề về quản trị rủi ro. Toàn bộ những cái nội dung đấy thì Bảo hiểm xã hội Việt Nam là rất mong là trong cái thời gian tới là tiếp tục hợp tác với SOCSO để làm sao cho chúng ta cùng nhau nâng cao hơn nữa cái hiệu quả đầu tư quỹ. Xin trân trọng cảm ơn
Mr. Deputy Director General, I would like to add one thing. In the 90s, Perkeso saw its fund as perpetual, but now we are trying to balance our income as well as our output.
Okay, thank you. Sau đây xin mời ý kiến từ phía chuyên gia của Đại sứ quán Đan Mạch.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. My question was on what to do to regulate the pharmaceutical prices better. Now, as we briefly touched upon in the presentation, we've had some success with the IT systems. In Denmark, we have negotiations. The initial negotiations are partly automatic, but they're also done in accordance with the procurement according to the life cycle of drugs, meaning that we try to regulate the prices of the drugs from the very start, from the initial contract. So we initiate that they are to be lowered in price in time or over time. And then in continuation, we also have the medicine pricing portal that I gave a short introduction to, where we allow bidders to bid against each other and enhance competition. This has proven to be a great tool for us. So the automatization and the e-health portals are definitely a great tool. But as I also briefly mentioned, we've been trying to be front runners in the integration of e-health systems. And if you look at, we started this process in the start of the millennium, and if you look at the results, now the IT health systems that's been introduced in the last 10 years, 90% of them are already outdated. 80% of our IT systems have been delayed. Almost all of them, I don't know the exact number, have gone way over budget. We still have huge issues with the consolidation of the different systems as we keep on seeing new opportunities. So once again, be aware that this could be a very complicated and sometimes expensive maneuver. Of course, as front runners, you take a much higher risk than what we're seeing in Vietnam today. And I believe that from reading the development strategy, I believe it's balanced. But all that being said, IT has been a great tool for us in terms of regulating prices, and the automatization has been today it's a great tool, but of course we still experience challenges, and the issue to regulate prices and control costs is not something that's a problem for Vietnam or Denmark alone. It's something that we see in all countries. In terms of the tenders, I would say that we tend to regulate some of the prices by partnerships with the Nordic countries or sometimes with the EU to ensure that we get the lowest price possible, and also once again making long-term contracts according to the life cycle of drugs, as we call it. It's a great way for us to budget prices and also to ensure that they are fairly low. We are in need of competition, which is sometimes hard. It's a big challenge for us that we need a lot of suppliers to bid in. And Denmark is a fairly short market. As I said, a small market. We're only 6 million people, so it is sometimes complicated. Now, I'm happy that we have a chance to discuss this further, where we have the CEO of the procurement company and Kim Helleberg from the Danish Medicines Agency, and it will be an opportunity for you to continue to ask all the questions that you need. So I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much.
Vâng, xin trân trọng cái phát biểu của chuyên gia từ phía Đại sứ quán Đan Mạch. Không biết có còn đại biểu nào có ý kiến không ạ? Kính thưa toàn thể quý vị đại biểu, thì, như vậy là sau một ngày làm việc tích cực và hiệu quả thì chúng ta đã hoàn thành toàn bộ các cái mục tiêu chương trình đã đề ra. Kính thưa quý vị, thì tính đến giờ phút này thì hiện tại chúng ta có mặt tại 124 điểm cầu, bao gồm cả 63 bảo hiểm xã hội tỉnh, thành phố cũng như là các cái điểm cầu quốc tế là hiện nay cũng vẫn đang online để cùng nhau tham gia hội thảo của chúng ta. Thay mặt lãnh đạo Bảo hiểm xã hội Việt Nam thì một lần nữa thì chúng tôi trân trọng cảm ơn sự tham gia rất nhiệt tình và hết sức chất lượng, nhiều thông tin và bổ ích từ phía chuyên gia của các tổ chức quốc tế cũng như là các nước mà là đối tác của Bảo hiểm xã hội Việt Nam. Chúng tôi xin trân trọng tiếp thu toàn bộ những ý kiến phát biểu của chuyên gia, và chúng tôi trong cái hoàn thiện chiến lược của mình, và chúng tôi hy vọng rằng là sau hội nghị này là chúng tôi cũng sẽ tiếp tục nhận được sự quan tâm, phối hợp cũng như là sự giúp đỡ nhiều hơn nữa từ tất cả các cái chuyên gia cũng như cái đối tác của Bảo hiểm xã hội Việt Nam trong cái việc, không chỉ trong việc mà Bảo hiểm xã hội Việt Nam xây dựng chiến lược phát triển của ngành, mà chúng tôi mong là nhận được sự hợp tác giúp đỡ trong cái quá trình thực hiện cái chiến lược này. Và chiến lược này sau khi cho kiểm lại, chúng tôi rất mong muốn là với sự giúp đỡ của tất cả các đối tác quốc tế thì chiến lược của chúng ta sẽ thành công. Một lần nữa xin trân trọng cảm ơn tất cả các đồng chí. Cái đấy là ban tổ chức.
Cảm ơn tổ phiên dịch đã giúp cho hội thảo thành công tốt đẹp.
Thank you.